Well, members of Chicago's law enforcement community are taking offense with a comment made by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Earlier this week, he said in part, quote, jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness.
Anti-ICE protest escalating outside Chicago overnight, with demonstrators facing off against agents again and even trying to block federal vehicles. Some Democrat officials in the area joining protesters.
I had started to retreat. He pushed me down anyway. When I was down, I'm 60 years old. My knees are bad. I couldn't get up immediately. I'm not 20 years old. I can't just jump up. They started threatening me more.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, today we're going to be talking about Chicago. What is going on in Chicago, y'all? You're looking on your screen right now. You're looking at images of Chicago from just last night. And it looks like the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, he said that law enforcement is a sickness. That's right, y'all. We made a video about it. And he's getting a lot of backlash for that now. And now we're seeing that Chicago looks like it wants to devolve at least some parts, okay? I know this isn't the whole city, but some parts of Chicago look like they just want to devolve into lawlessness. And I guess where there's lawlessness, there's no law enforcement. So maybe the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, will get his way. So y'all, today we're going to look at some backlash that your boy is receiving for those quite idiotic comments. He's going to double down, of course, because how do you get a sub 10% approval rating unless you actually say stupid stuff first? You have to say it. Then you have to double down on it, because when you first say it, maybe you have a 40-50% approval rating. You say something dumb, people say, oh, he must not have said that. He doesn't really believe that. And then you double down on it, and that's when people say, oh yeah, this guy's something's wrong. Something's wrong with this human. So we're going to see him double down on his idiotic comments. And then we're also going to see how Chicago is devolving into lawlessness in certain areas where ICE is acting. ICE is the law. ICE is trying to enforce immigration law. And now just regular citizens, I don't know who these people are. They obviously don't have a job because they're out there day and night. Now regular citizens are confronting ICE, and it's not pretty, y'all. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not going to make this a long one, y'all. Go to Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com, or call 844-651-8334, 844-651-8334. If you have $50,000 to $100,000 or more in your retirement, protected from inflation, protected from monetary debasement, you're about to retire. Make sure your money's still there and it's still worth something by investing at least some of it in gold. Talk to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Go click the link now, get the free information, and protect your precious retirement.
Well, members of Chicago's law enforcement community are taking offense with a comment made by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Earlier this week, he said in part, quote, jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness. CBS News Chicago investigator Megan DeMar joins us live now. The comment sparking outrage online and in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, Megan.
Right, Erica. The Cook County State's Attorney told me she was deeply offended by that statement. Some argued that Mayor Johnson's words were taken out of context, so we asked him today to clarify exactly what he meant. During a press conference on Tuesday, Mayor Brandon Johnson was responding to a question about how to make Chicagoans feel safer in their communities.
The fact of the matter is we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
The law enforcement is a sickness comment took off in some conservative and pro-police circles on social media, even prompting Cook County State's Attorney Eileen Burke.
The statement was disappointing and disheartening. We are part of law enforcement. The State's Attorney's Office is the prosecution arm, and that is clearly law enforcement.
To voice her own outrage during a sit-down interview with me on a different topic.
I have 1,300 people who work in this office who are dedicated public servants, who get up every single day to make sure that they keep women safe from domestic violence, to make sure that we are doing our jobs in protecting children from being sex trafficked, to make sure that we are prosecuting murder cases. What we do every day does not call for our eradication.
When she won her race in November, O'Neill Burke was considered the law and order focused candidate and was backed by police. Hoping to clarify what Mayor Johnson meant by law enforcement is a sickness, we asked him today.
The people who heard my statement, they know exactly what I meant and what I'm talking about. They're using this moment to politicize, to justify their own insecurities. I'm not going to stand for it, I'm not going to take it, and neither will the residents of this fine city.
Johnson explained that, quote, the addiction of jails and incarceration is one that we have to wean ourselves off of. This time leaving out a reference to law enforcement specifically.
When you just responded, though, you didn't loop in law enforcement this time. So did you not intend to use the
I said that law enforcement, here's what I've said, though. Law enforcement alone does not keep communities safe. Law enforcement agrees with me on that. How do you send police officers into communities when there's little access to affordable housing? What is a police officer's responsibility to hunger?
Johnson went on to say that jails, incarceration, and law enforcement should not be considered some kind of salvation for the Black and brown communities of Chicago. We did reach out to the Chicago Police Department for comment, but so far, Erica, we have not received a response.
All right. Megan, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So there you saw the comments of the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of the Windy City. And I guess in the wake of his, I've already called the comment stupid and idiotic. I don't know a better superlative to give them. I wish I had a stronger word, But anyway, so at the same time, you have people who apparently their job is to protest the immigration officials doing their job. They're out there in the morning, they're out there in the afternoon, they're out there at night protesting the United States enforcing its immigration laws.
Anti-ICE protest escalating outside Chicago overnight, with demonstrators facing off against agents again and even trying to block federal vehicles. Some Democrat officials in the area joining protesters. Watch this.
I'm back at the Broadview ICE facility where, in part of a protest just a few minutes ago, not only did they come with weapons and violent show of force and drive a van into us, but then they tear gassed us. And I have to tell you, it was terrifying. It was impossible to breathe and really, really scary. But the point is they are trying to intimidate us, to stop us from standing up and being a part of a nonviolent resistance. And we will not be intimidated.
Here to react, former ICE Director Jonathan Fahey. Jonathan, that, to be clear, so our viewers understand, that was the mayor of Evanston out there essentially leading this protest against ICE carrying out lawful federal immigration law enforcement.
So at one point, y'all, they had up to over 100 people out there impeding ICE, getting in the way, trying to stop traffic, getting thrown to the ground, getting shot with rubber bullets. Y'all, just all kinds of craziness. So I guess 100 people is not that many people, but it's definitely enough to cause a scene. And so that's what we've been seeing.
Breaking news at 6 o'clock, a major increase in tensions today outside the ICE facility in Broadview. Multiple people taken into custody following physical confrontations with officers.
And WGN's Amy Victor has been covering today's demonstration. She is joining us with the latest right now. Amy.
Ray and Micah, since I last checked in with all about an hour ago, this crowd has grown both in size and in intensity. Let me step out of the way so I can show you what's going on here. What you're looking at is a live picture of protesters. They have been shouting at the federal agents that are on top of this Broadview ICE facility for the past 20 minutes or so. Now, certainly about 24 protesters isn't as large as the crowd that we saw earlier, which had more than 100 people, but the people who are here are trying to make their voices heard. This is a protest that has been going on for more than 10 hours now, and at times things have been relatively peaceful. At other times they have been anything but peaceful. This is video from just over 2 hours ago, and you can hear the people chanting here behind me. At this video, you're looking at a woman was blocking a van from leaving the facility when she was pushed to the ground by a federal agent. And after an altercation ensued, she was detained and brought into the facility with handcuffs. We've spoken with other people today who've said they've also been pushed to the ground by agents.
I had started to retreat. he pushed me down anyway. When I was down, I'm 60 years old, my knees are bad. I couldn't get up immediately, I'm not 20 years old, I can't just jump up. They started threatening me more for not getting up. And all they did was yell at me and say that, all kinds of things that I was going to get if I didn't get up and get out. That just gives me more incentive to be here and stay here.
And if you can come to me live, you can see another tense moment. This has actually been rinse and repeat. All of the tense moments we have seen out here today have started when employees try to enter and exit the building. As the protesters approach the property, that's when federal agents try to push the crowd back. Agents have been spraying tear gas, rubber bullets, and more to try to disperse this crowd. But people I have talked with today say they are not letting up. Now, we have reached out to ICE for comment on exactly what has been going on out here. So far, we have not heard back from them, but with word today that more than 400 people have been detained by ICE since Operation Midway Blitz started just a few weeks ago. You can just really understand why protesters are trying to make their voices heard here. Just a lot of tension in this atmosphere. And of course, with those rubber bullets, the tear gas, a lot of people also needing medical attention. We're reporting live out here in Broadview. Emmy Victor, WGN News.
Now, something that has perplexed me, I've been thunderstruck by something, and that is, who are these people? Like, what do they what leg do they have to stand on when we have immigration laws and we have people whose job it is to enforce those laws, and they're going about doing their job? Like, what could you say? What could you say? I mean, I think I could get with people who say, look, man, somebody in a hospital bed, don't go try to deport them if they're on dialysis. I could party with that. Somebody's at school, like, don't snatch them off out of the lunchroom at lunch. I can kind of understand that one, right? I mean, look, we do have to be humanitarian, right? Particularly if we're not talking about a violent criminal or something. Yeah, there's a time and a place. I'm down with that. But there were some people who were working on a roof recently, and they're like, oh, people should be able to earn a living, whether they're documented or not. No. That's not a school. That's not a hospital. That's a roof. Come down from there. You don't have permission to be in the country. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we're going to see. You're going to get a glimpse into the mind of people who are opposing ICE. Take a look.
Community leaders and advocates for immigrants are pushing back against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. ICE officers have been in the Chicago metro area for several days now, picking up suspected undocumented immigrants. Protesters held rallies outside an ICE facility in Broadview, just outside of Chicago, back on Friday. A federal agent pushed one protester to the ground. You saw it right there. She says agents also fired pepper balls at demonstrators. The mayor of Evanston, who was there alongside protesters, says federal agents tear gassed them. Mayor Daniel Biss says they will not be intimidated. Joining me now to discuss the public resistance to federal operations in Chicago is Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, sir, to talk about this. Let's start here. What are your constituents feeling right now as these ICE operations increase?
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for the invitation. It's being terror unleashed on our streets. We saw in the beginning of the Midwest Blitz operation, we already have a neighbor who has been killed in these operations. Yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a neighbor that was tased. There was a U.S. citizen that was tased and hospitalized because of the barbaric nature of these operations. We have seen child endangerment, at least 2 operations, one in Cicero, one in Chicago, in Little Village, in my neighborhood, when a family was stopped. In one occasion, both parents were taken from the vehicle, dragged out of the vehicle in front of their minors. The children were minors, creating child endangerment. And yesterday, when we saw the shameful actions of Gregory Bobino and his group of mercenaries, because that's how we got a call, people who were shooting rubber bullets. I was there with Mayor Biss and a few other elected officials, including Lieutenant Governor Julian Stratton, a few minutes before this happened. Rubber bullets and chemical weapons that were shot at protesters that were just expressing the discontent with all these shameful operations that are creating terror.
And of course, we all know that we're here because the Biden administration left the border wide open. And I think this is one of the reasons Kamala Harris lost the presidency, by the way, y'all, because she had the task of being we call her a border czar. I don't know what her official title was. Whatever it was, she didn't do a good job. You know what I mean? She did a poor job at the border. And the border and immigration was one of the top issues of the 2024 election. So, you know, we know that Biden caused this problem. And now, the solution is difficult, y'all. It is ugly. I mean, listen.
But also shows a couple of things. The what's going on in Chicago and the interior enforcement is very effective in deterring people from wanting to come to the United States. Because remember, under the Biden administration, we essentially had de facto amnesty. Once you set foot on American soil, you'd get a phone, and then essentially you were never getting kicked out. And that was the policy of the United States. So now they know if they manage to get here, they're getting kicked out. And the fentanyl thing is really important because 101,000 people a year died of fentanyl overdoses and overall drug overdoses under the Biden administration. Watch that number at the end of this year, and that will show the success of this, but we're also going to save lives. And that's the most important part of this all, is saving people's lives. And President Trump is off to an amazing start doing that.
You're spot on, Jonathan. It's all about safety, and the American people are behind that 100%. Jonathan Fahey, thank you very much. Thanks for getting up on a Saturday.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the pro-immigrant people, y'all, they are up in arms. They want Governor Pritzker to do something. Like, what can he do? He can't stop ICE. Are these people, I mean, do they understand the separation of powers and federalism and supremacy and all of that stuff? You know, you ball all that stuff up and it's like Pritzker cannot stop ICE. Nobody can stop ICE. No state official can stop ICE. When you really think about it, that's wild. You can't stop them. You really can't stop them from going into a school or into a hospital. I think that for humanitarian and public relations reasons, they shouldn't do that unless it's absolutely necessary to grab somebody who's a real violent criminal. But, you know, I don't, you can wait till somebody comes out of school, you know, or gets out of the hospital, you know, if they're not a violent criminal. But the governor can't stop them. You can't even stop them from doing that. So, y'all, Chicago is like ground zero right now. I think Boston is also going to be another ground zero. And we'll see what's going to happen. What do y'all think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? I think the surge continues. And at some rate, these cities and states are going to have to relent because they just can't stop ICE. Let me know your comments down below, y'all. But before you do, please stop, hit the share button, share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of your favorite social mediums. And if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. To my people with a retirement, go down, click that first link in the description, Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com. Learn how to protect your retirement from when these Democrats get back in office, y'all. Oh my gosh. How many migrants they gonna let in, y'all? And how much of your money are they gonna take from you to give to them? I mean, just think about, oh my gosh, y'all. You better protect it. Hit the link and also speak to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals at 844-651-8334. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all, and we'll see you back in the next one.
What we're demanding also is support. We cannot have right now a rhetoric, a democratic rhetoric, but a MAGA tax code, where schools are not fully funded. We have gaps in substance abuse programs because Trump is cutting or withholding our funds, violence prevention programs, you name it. So I think right now what we need is the full action and the full weight of our local government to protect our local constituents, as we did with our Texas legislators that were persecuted as well. I think that we got to do that for every constituent that is really terrorized right now. They're afraid of leaving their homes, or businesses are suffering, or children are suffering, or economy. All of us are discontent. So when is it enough for us to be able to push forward, not only to protect constitutional rights, freedom of speech? We got people who are being arrested and beat up in front of the detention facility in Broadview. So when is the time for us to have a code that tax millionaires so that we can have enough to protect our communities and we follow the Constitution? It's incredible that we are allowing these kind of Gestapo operations without any actions to protect our constitutional and human rights. So yes, I'm calling on Governor Pritzker to move beyond the rhetoric, to understand what's happening on the ground, to work with us to make sure that our schools, our hospitals, our churches are protected, that our city has enough resources to face this horrific attack that is terrorizing, that is defunding our institutions, where they want chaos, they want escalation.
Right.
I think our city, our state deserves better, and I'm calling on Governor Pritzker to meet with us. I have not yet to hear from Governor Pritzker in one of the communities that have been hit the hardest, especially at the beginning of this year. I'm yet to have a direct conversation with him.